Back in the day, video game studios would need to build custom engines and editing tools for their games. However, developers of today have several readily available options to choose from, with a popular choice being Unreal Engine from Epic Games. One of the initial games to use this engine was Unreal Tournament, which is often described as one of the most influential video games ever made. It won a lot of critics and players' choice awards that resulted in an impressive Metacritic score of 92 out of 100. This 1999 arena first-person shooter game was a technological achievement, as it resolved many of the issues with early games in Unreal Engine. The game also had incredibly fun gameplay with both online multiplayer and offline AI bot match experiences. So let's take a look at how Unreal Tournament paved the way for Unreal Engine and modern video games, but beware of minor spoilers for the game from here on out. Unreal Engine was initially developed for the first-person shooter suitably titled Unreal, which was released the year before Unreal Tournament. The game engine was developed over a 3.5-year period and was notable for making several technical advancements. However, this version of Unreal Engine was somewhat unpolished and unoptimized, needing fairly high system requirements for the time. This would be addressed for the release of Unreal Tournament, and many enhancements were made to the game engine. One of the problematic aspects of Unreal was its multiplayer, which was not up to players' standards. This would be the motivation to develop an online-focused sequel where the networking code was improved to ensure online games were stable and lag-free. The non-player characters were also overhauled with a shift towards arena-style matches. The bot AI was made to feel more human, and systems were pioneered that made them work well in team and strategy game modes such as Capture the Flag. One groundbreaking aspect of Unreal Engine was its graphical capabilities, and it featured integrated software rendering. This allowed for features such as object collision detection, bloom from coloured lighting, and texture filtering, also known as texture smoothing. Previous versions of Unreal Engine performed this rendering entirely on the CPU, as graphics cards were relatively new. Therefore, changes were made so that Unreal Tournament could take advantage of dedicated graphical hardware to boost performance. The rendering system also gave developers the ability to view 3D geometry as it would appear in the game. This meant that they were able to view and make changes directly to levels in real time, which was a drastic upgrade in how they were put together. The editing tools created, which included a map editor as well as a dedicated object-oriented scripting language, also simplified the development process. These significantly improved workflows, particularly making artists and designers much more efficient and productive. The inclusion of these authoring tools with the game also meant that it was incredibly accessible to modders. The community that formed would then be responsible for the game's longevity, as they provided continuous updates to the game. Many from this community would even take what they learned from modding Unreal Tournament and its sequels to go on to form their own game development studios. Some game examples of this are Alien Swarm, Killing Floor, and Sanctum. Ultimately, Unreal Engine revolutionized the way games would be made. It was also so popular at the time that other game studios even sought to license the engine for their own games because of the considerable benefits. Several decades on, the impact of Unreal Tournament is that it gave rise to one of today's most versatile and widely used video game engines. It may be somewhat surprising to learn that a game centering on arena-style deathmatches has a backstory, but this was something common for many games of the time. To summarise, the governments of Earth turned to space mining to raise funds for a conflict between humans and an alien race. This was incredibly unpopular with the working class forced to work in these conditions, and they violently revolted in protest. As a result, governments decided to legalise consensual murder to allow people to fight to the death. This ended up being so popular that it became more profitable than mining, so they formed a professional league with tournaments around their newly created sport. The campaign of Unreal Tournament involves the player working their way to the top of different leagues by winning matches and defeating the current champion. The success of Unreal Tournament can be attributed to the fact that its game modes were really good and fun to play. It opted for relatively simple gameplay, which meant that it could be brilliantly refined and polished into something truly exceptional. The standard league is deathmatch, where the only objective is to frantically kill your opponents more times than they can kill you. There are also team-based leagues such as Domination, where you take over control areas to earn points over time. Capture the Flag additionally offers the classic experience where you steal your opponent's flag and return it to your base. The Assault game mode even offers one-sided gameplay where you are either attacking or defending before switching. Here each team will have a series of objectives to accomplish before a timer runs out. While these game modes are rather basic, they don't need to be overly complicated to be enjoyable. The variety of many different maps available also helps to keep things fresh, making a game that keeps players coming back for more. Across all game modes, you are given access to a wide variety of weapons which you can find on the maps or pick up from dead players. Each has both a primary and secondary fire mode which constantly changes how you play the game. Players start with a handful of basic weapons, including the Enforcer pistol, where you can increase the rate of fire by holding it sideways. This makes you look rather awesome, particularly if you pick up a secondary pistol from your dead enemies. The player also begins each round with a translocated device that they can use to teleport and reach advantageous places. The melee impact hammer is also ideal for pushing other players off the map. Other weapons in the game are rather conventional and use bullets such as the minigun and sniper rifle, however others are straight out of science fiction. The bio rifle, for instance, fires blobs of a toxic green product, and holding down the trigger creates larger blobs. These can stick to surfaces and burst into smaller blobs when players walk on them, effectively making them mines. The shock rifle fires blue energy projectiles where one is fast and can knock back players, and the other is slow but does more damage. If timed right, these can also be skillfully used in combination to great effect. Likewise, the pulse rifle fires green energy orbs, with the alternative fire creating a stream of lightning which latches onto and tracks targets. Moving away from energy-based weapons, the Ripper fires sharp metal discs that can ricochet off surfaces or explode on contact. The flak gun also fires heated metal fragments and shrapnel at enemies, with the secondary fire mode creating a flak grenade which does a lot of damage. The favourite weapon in Unreal Tournament, however, is the rocket launcher. This can not only fire multiple rockets at one time from the salvo, but it can also just throw the rockets out of the barrel as grenades. If that wasn't enough options, perhaps the most overkill weapon in the game is the thermonuclear device known as the Redeemer. This fires a missile that detonates and instantly kills anyone unfortunate enough to be within its rather large radius. You can even directly fly the missile and detonate it remotely. The weapons in Unreal Tournament would become rather iconic because of their versatility. This would be one of the reasons why the game was both enjoyable and admired for many years after its release. Unreal Tournament perfectly showcases the robustness of the first iteration of Unreal Engine. The popularity and legacy of the game's online multiplayer and modding community continues to this day, and are responsible for many video games that followed it. Today, Unreal Engine is one of the most widely used video game engines because of the strides in video game development Unreal Tournament made.